Hello, my name is Brett Butler, and I'm here on behalf of our co-authorship team to present to you the state of science on Wikimedia, who is doing what and who is funding it. This is basically a bibliometric analysis of Wikimedia-related publications to see who is doing what and how that work was funded. And we want to help the community succeed in the future. So we basically went to OpenAlex and other bibliometric databases like Web of Science and Scholia, and we looked for Wikimedia papers using this search, which is basically the sister projects in the title or abstract. We did a bibliometric analysis of this data using R, and we mostly here focus on funders, but we're going to go through a lot of different interesting potential results. The main line, we found about 9,000 papers. We found about 20,000 authors, 3,700 institutes, and 326 funders. This suggests that there is a big community and flourishing Wikimedia research, but if you look a little bit more closely at the number of papers per year, you see that the peak number of papers, at least in this data set, was 2015, which was the first year, and we've never really recovered. And there has been a more than 50% drop since 2021, and I think that this needs a little bit more attention to figure out and reverse this trend. We looked, this is not because OpenAlex is getting smaller. OpenAlex brings in about the same number of papers per year, but the number of papers about Wikimedia and wiki projects are smaller. When you think about, so these are the top institutes, and the idea here is like, this is where you should be looking to get a job, because these institutes have a large number of people who have worked on Wikipedia in the past. And so Carnegie Mellon, University of Washington, and it is interesting to me as a side note that Google is publishing about 50% or more than the Wikimedia Foundation on Wikimedia. So that's somehow interesting. But yeah, this is like where you should be thinking about, connecting with people. These are the top keywords. We don't have really time to look at this, and funders. So this is where we should look to get funding in theory. If you're from, for instance, Switzerland or Taiwan or Spain or the EU or, so this is like where you can look. The largest one is China. There are several China at the top, and US also at the top. But the thing to keep in mind here is that only 7.4% of the papers actually mention a funder, which is some downside because most papers don't have a funder. And that I think we want to change, right? We should, in theory, we should be having, we would like to help you get more funding for your work. That's what we're working on. And so we wanted to look at it more specifically, who is funding what. And we did this by looking at, for instance, taking those 200 papers that National Natural Science Foundation of China funded and looking at the keywords that are on those papers. And so you see things like computer science, artificial intelligence, information retrieval, natural language. These are very common among the top. One thing that is interesting, we don't have time to do a lot, but the EU did not really fund, it seems like, artificial intelligence related to Wikimedia very much. And others did, and now maybe the EU is behind in some way, potentially, is one conclusion or a thing you could think about. This is the network. These are the people who have published the most papers about Wikimedia projects, and these are mostly clean, 75 to 80% in our testing. And that means, for instance, like Matthew A. Vetter versus Matthew Vetter. Most of them, like most cases we found, were 75 to 80% were in the first tier. Yeah, so this is who you should be thinking about maybe working with. If somebody's in your area, and because they have been doing it successfully. Yeah, so yeah. One thing that I do want to say, and one note I want to make, is that we found about 20,000 unique authors. So that's like some potential size for the Wikimedia Research Community. But, and unfortunately, 83% of the authors had only written one paper, and 94% of the papers had only written one or two papers. So that suggests that there's some sustainability issues. Only 48% had written more than 10 papers. Those were who you saw. And that, as I said, that suggests that there are a lot of people coming to the community, but there are not a lot of people staying in the community for some reason. And this is also why we're working on helping people get grants and helping people get projects, et cetera, so they can sustain their work. Limitations and future directions. So we found, again, only about 7.5% of the papers actually mention a funder. It's possible that it just wasn't logged, or we can look more. Of course, we can always look more, but that's a potential future direction for research. We're going to try to look for other ways. Author names were also not perfect, so that introduces noise in that person table that we saw. But we did find like most cases were pretty good. In most, like if we look at all the Matt Vetters, we get most of them in the Matthew A. Vetter, in the one. It's possible to manually code these, but it's a little bit crazy because there's like 20,000. Other limitations, the keywords were not super informative. That's true. We could probably do a better analysis of like the abstracts. Qualitative analysis could do better. Open House is probably not catching all of the papers, so like we could probably better combine all of them. And we should remove preprints. I'm running out of time, so if you have any questions or any comments, it would be great to hear from you. You can find all the documentation and data on our meta page. My name is Brett Butler, and you can email me there. So yeah, I hope you enjoy your WikiWorkshop.